Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/slash Tales from Tech Support. In today's episode, ex-military intelligence can't figure out why she doesn't have internet. $10 wastes $100 plus. Disaster averted. You're a web developer? I have a question about Excel. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Ex-military intelligence can't figure out why she doesn't have internet. So, I'm not trained as an IT guy. I just apparently have a stronger computer background than most people at my place of employment. We got a new HR lady about 2 years ago. Our last guy moved on to bigger and better things. This woman comes in and cannot go more than 4 sentences without naming something from the military or the Navy. That's cool, you served. I did not. But I also know plenty of vets that don't feel the need to tell you they served. In literally every conversation. Prime example, the security system guy shows up one day. Old POS Windows XP machine runs everything. I let the guy in. He pokes around. The tech goes, "Oh. The BIOS clock is wrong. What's the time?" I say 2:30 p.m. HR lady, it's 14:30. Tech and I blank stare. HR, yup, I was in the military. Fast forward to Christmas time. I finally am able to take a day off. Or so I think. About 7 a.m. the phone rings. Wakes me up. It's one of our shop guys. Tells me the battery backups on the hypervisors are screaming. I try to VPN in and see what's going on. Can't access the building. Ask the shop guy to tell me what's up in the network room. Tells me it's dark. Looks like the building lost a phase of power. Awesome. I tell him thanks for the heads up. Let me know when power is restored. I'll log in and check on everything. While we're on the phone, he tells me we lost all phases, and now it's pitch black in the building. Great. About an hour goes by. My boss texts me. "Boss, hey. Who's in the network room?" Me, I don't know. I took today off. You're the boss. Why don't you check it out? Boss. A couple minutes pass. Boss calls me laughing. Says he goes in the network room. There's HR standing there all condescending. There's an AT&T tech with a flashlight on the fiber hub. Looks at HR, looks at my boss. Says, "Do you know why you don't have any f***ing internet? Because you don't have any f***ing power." God. Yup. HR called AT&T because she couldn't get online. My boss told me she was sitting in a pitch black office huddled around the laptop, complaining she couldn't connect to her email. I'm the emergency contact for the AT&T account. So whenever the connection goes down, I get a call. Usually from some pleasant person out of India. Before I could drift off back to sleep, my phone rings. I answer. In a very thick accent, the man asks me if I'm Karen. I grin. Just say, "Sure, buddy. I'm a dude." AT&T rep, "How was your service from your visit today, Karen?" Me, "It was great, buddy. Keep up the good work over there. No need to call back." Thankfully. She quit about 8 months later. $10 wastes $100 plus. Long-time lurker, first-time posting. A couple years ago, I worked internal IT at a small corporation. The company does property management and at the time was working a rather sizable construction project. I work at the home office and the building site is about 50 miles away. Working here was like a country club, everyone was very chill and things got expensed rather easily. At the time, we are working on deploying new workstations to the entire company. One of my friends had gotten hired to work with me on that project as well as a couple others. His job at the time was to image the workstations and stage them in his office for me to deploy. One morning I get into the office and have barely sat down when my boss goes power walking by my door, then leans in when he sees I'm there. "Boss, $user is on the way here, she will be here shortly. Her machine won't boot and she reported clicking noises." Me, what? Her workstation from the building trailer? I just deployed that, works just fine. Sure enough, 10 minutes later $user shows up with her workstation in hand. I plug it in on my bench and power it on. Boots just fine. $user is bewildered and is insisting that it was not working at the building site. Boss tells me to replace it anyway and do some deeper hardware checks once $user is back working. So my coworker and I spend about 10 minutes migrating her data to a new, just imaged machine. We send $user on her way and move on with our day. About 50 minutes later my phone rings with the building trailer's caller ID. Me, support desk, how can I help? $user, it's not booting again and the clicking is back. $user sounds flustered, but not yet at panic mode. Me, okay, let's unplug everything except the keyboard, mouse, and power. These were all in one workstations. $user, shuffles around for a minute, okay, done. Me, okay, power it on. $user, wow. It works. It's booting. Me, what is currently not plugged in? $user, my USB fan. I got it at Walmart for $10, gets hot in this trailer. Me, face desk collision just booted without the fan plugged in and you will be fine. The machines were still set to boot from USB for some reason, came that way from the vendor, and was reaching out to the fan to see if it was bootable. The fan, being cheap and lacking any electronics besides an electrical motor, was not responding to the boot requests, and was instead clicking as the motor got intermittent power, see computer signals. Now, I mentioned that we expensed everything, the user got paid for the miles she drove and all of this was on the clock for her. Disaster averted. This happened this week. In the school district I work for, we bring in all staff laptops during the summer break to maintain and update them so the staff have basically a clean install to start the new year with. It's a pain, but it prevents a lot of problems. So this week I get an email from the school nurse. She wants to know where her laptop is. I look around and it's nowhere to be found. I provide laptops for all of my district's nurses as they are run from a central location that I also am in charge of. And there are a lot of them. It's a big district. Most of the nurses got new laptops last year, so losing one is a big deal. I know they are encrypted, so I'm not concerned with losing data, but because of distance learning I have absolutely no spare laptops younger than the first graders at this particular school. So searched all of my sites trying to find this machine to no avail. I had come to the conclusion that I had mixed her machine up with one that was to go to a new hire. I asked for the asset tag number, so I could figure out who was going to have to give up their laptop for an older version. Amazingly, she had recorded the asset number and gave it to me. Now at this point I'm confused. The number is so low it could not possibly be correct. If this were a valid number, it would mean that her laptop would be so old if it were a child it would have aged out of this elementary school, and would be halfway through middle school. So I said what the F***, and went through every machine on campus. And there I found it. Like the Holy Grail. A 13-year-old laptop on the top of my e-waste pile. Her laptop. It was originally licensed for XP but was running Windows 7. She just didn't want to give it up because she had gotten used to it. I recovered her files and gave her a new machine that was at least age appropriate for an elementary school. You're a web developer? I have a question about Excel. My first job out of college was at a small company that built and supported websites for our clients. We had a headquarter office of about 150 to 200 people in New York, but I worked at the small satellite office in Boston, which consisted of about 10 people in a small one-room office that shared a floor in a skyscraper with a dozen other companies, half of which were developers and the other half were management or sales. After being there a year and a half, we got acquired by a big accounting firm that wanted to get into the web dev market. So we moved from our tiny little one-room office to the skyscraper, where probably 10 floors belonged to the firm. We had our own glass office within the floor, which was nice to have our own area, but also kind of felt like being in a glass pen where the accounting folks gawked with curiosity at the newly acquired programming nerds. I should mention that in addition to being a young woman in tech, I dress pretty alternative, as much as I could get away with in a business casual setting, so I stood out even more than the other nerds in this business suit environment. So I went to the kitchen for coffee one afternoon early, and this accountant started chatting me up. He was so intrigued about what me and my colleagues did, and the level of interest he showed in my job was honestly bizarre. You would think that a web developer was an exotic bird he was up close to for the first time. I recall him saying something like, "Wow, you must be really good with computers." I laughed it off and excused myself and back to my glass nerd pen. Later that afternoon, I'm working at my computer when I hear a "hey" from right over my shoulder. It's the accountant looming over me. Hey. What's up? Accountant, well, I'm having trouble thing in Excel, do you know how to do it? I figured I'd ask you since you're really good with computers. Sorry. I don't really know anything about Excel. Now, I certainly could have Googled the issue he described, but I didn't need to affirm the notion that I was his personal IT person. It also amuses me greatly that in an office of accountants, who were, at least some, not him obviously, probably very skilled in Excel shortcuts and formulas, he chose to ask the web developer who's never used Excel a day in her life. Because web developers know everything about computers, and Excel runs on a computer, so I must be an expert.